Well, welcome back, my friends, to another rousing rendition of Choir Boys Cutler Outdoors, a Rosecraft Blades rendition. Little red and black going on there. A skink rendition, if you will. This is a knife I specifically asked for rendition. Before we get into it, there was a time in this country where 22 veterans a day took their own lives. The stats are everywhere. It depends on what you read and what day you read it. The stat that we worry about is this: vets, we love you. You have a place here. Anything over zero is simply unacceptable. You're welcome here. That's all we want you to know. We're back to blue over here. We support Leo, all to the chagrin of many. How do you do that, Scab? Well, we don't break the damn law, and when we do, because we have, we accept responsibility for it. And finally, if you are an addict, never quit quitting. My voice has changed about 14 times there, like I'm going through puberty, and I apologize for that. So here's the deal. This is the Skink from Rosecraft Blades. It is a gentleman's carry. What does that mean? It means gentlemen carry it. It's not a hard use knife. Let me back up. Let me say this. I am an ambassador for Rosecraft Blades. I know it's hard to believe. I can barely believe it myself, but I am. I'm not going to represent anybody or have any knife on the channel I don't believe in. So before anybody says, any particular dumbass says, well, they gave you this knife, let me make something clear. There's not a knife on this channel that doesn't get on this channel without my approval. I specifically asked for this knife. In fact, there's only been 2 or 3 knives I've ever asked from anyone about. This is one of them. Why? I like the way it looks. Point blank, period. It's not a hard use folder. It's not a banger. Mr. Andy said that himself. He said, Scab, you can't do the same test you do on everything else. The knife won't hold up. It is a button lock gentleman's carry. I said, okay, send it, because that's what we do here. And people have asked me, Scab, why do you test knives the same way? Believe me, I've thought about it. I want to mix it up. I want to do some different things. And every time I start thinking that, I'll get a comment, hey man, I'm glad that you tested this knife. I compared it. I made my choice. And I've seriously gotten those comments. I do knives the same way. Why? So you can see how each one acts, and then if you want to make a choice, you can. Now, I don't compare knives. It's not what we do here. We demonstrate knives based on the knife in hand. We don't do what ifs. We don't say they're better options. We don't do any of that shit. Why? It takes away from the knife we're demonstrating. So there's that. This is the Skink from Rosecraft Blades. Now let me go ahead and jump into it because I've been bullshitting long enough. First and foremost, it's a 3.2 inch D2 upswept blade. I love an upswept trailing point blade. It has a satin finish. It is an assisted opener. You'll see throughout this video that some of it flies open. It runs on a ball bearing pivot. It's a button lock. Dual black and red G10 handles. If you know me, if you've known me for a second, you know red and black is just my favorite color. They're going to be the channel's colors. I just absolutely adore red and black. Go dogs. It has steel liners, a lanyard post, ambidextrous tip-up pocket clip. It is 4.5 inch closed. That means the handle is 4.5 inches. Overall, it's 7.7 inches. The designer is Andy Armstrong. I did specifically ask for this knife. Now, it's D2, and it has a 3.2 inch blade, and I believe we said it was a 4.4 inch handle. Now, here's the deal. I usually give you the inner grip as well, and here's the truth. The inner grip, I believe, is right at 4 inches. If I'm not mistaken, it's right at 4 inches. If it's not, it's close. Plenty of grip on this handle. Now again, Mr. Andy did say several times, Scab, this is not a hard use knife. And he's right, it's not. Here's why I wanted the knife, guys. Because it's not a hard use knife. If I'm going to represent a company, I want to know what they're about, what their quality's about, how they go about it. Am I going to get their highest end, best knife? Well, probably. But what that's going to tell me is it's their highest end, best knife. I wanted a knife that was one of the lower, I think it's around $34, something like that. It is considered a gentleman's carry. It's not for hard use. And I wanted to run some of my demonstrations on it. Let me just say this. Every knife that I've gotten from Rosecraft has been sharp as shit. Every one. That speaks volumes to me. Now, we're not going to baton things. We're not going to chop. We're not going to do this stupid stuff. Why would you? That's not what this knife is for. We did the Donnie B all day drop test. We did the Donnie B all day throw it at the stump test. The lock held. The handle scales held. The tip did not bend. The edge did not roll. Everything did perfectly well. The blade, in fact, I'm holding the knife as we're narrating. The blade stays center. Here's the deal, guys. It's got some really good G10. I really love the feel of this knife. I love the look of this knife. I honest to God do, and I did seriously ask for it. I'm doing some of the tests that I normally do because I wanted to see how the knife holds up. So what did the testing tell me? Well, it told me the knife's sharp. It told me the knife's comfortable in hand. It told me the knife rides well in the pocket. Now at the end, I'm going to put it in my shirt pocket so you can get a real good look at how, if you were going to carry it in a business setting, you could put it in a shirt pocket, in a coat pocket, and honest to God, you can barely notice it. The other thing I like about this knife is it's quick to deploy. Some people like assisted openings, some people don't. I am one of those that do. I like to have a knife that I can get out fast and it can do what it does. Now, this is a knife several times that Mr. Andy has described as taking to a steakhouse. It's slicey enough that you absolutely could do that. The other thing you could do, and I'm serious when I say this, a lot of times, guys, if we're going to dress up, if we're going to do that, if we're going to wear our Sunday go to meeting clothes, we don't want to carry a heavy knife, right? We want to carry something light. We want to carry something faster. We want to carry something at the office that isn't quite as intimidating as a Medford Praetorian T and weighs 27 pounds. Now, I love my Medford, don't get me wrong. But we want something that's not exactly a pocket sword. If we're going out in public, if we're going to a party, if we're going to a dog's game, if we're going to church, if we're going to the gentleman's club, if we're going out to eat with the wife, whatever we're doing, and we don't want a heavy, aggressive knife, this is a perfect knife for it. And you say, Scab, then why did you do all this other stuff? To prove it could. That's why. To prove the quality's there, to prove that my faith in Rosecraft is warranted. That's why I did it. I didn't do it for me, you see. I did it for you. I did it for all the naysayers. I did it for the people who say, well, I wouldn't carry that knife. You may not, but just know if you needed to, it's there. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes, guys, we have to look at these demonstrations in a different light, okay? It's easy to take. I could take the Adjunta. I could take the Mohawk, which I love. I could take several of the other, the Mormalia, the Pocket Monster, the Little Chonk, and I can beat the hell out of those knives, and I have, and I will continue to, because that's kind of what we do, but we don't abuse, we do hard use. And that's awesome. We know they'll last. But I also want to do the gentleman's carry. Now, would I do any of this? Now, this one, I took a leap of faith. This is that 2-inch toe strap. Guys, this tells me as much as anything. It took a few times to get through. Absolutely it did. Absolutely it did. But it got through. So a lot of times I put that in terms of for my hunters and fishermen. Well, you're not going to take this knife hunting and fishing, are you? You're not. But if you're trapped in a car or a situation arises, if it'll go through that toe strap, it'll damn sure go through a seatbelt, won't it? Sure will, Scab. Thank you. So I wanted to prove that the knife held up. Now, when the knife was over, I wiggled the blade. I checked all the screws. Everything's tight. Everything stays in. Here's some of that high pressure air hose. Took them. And is this going to just whip through things? Is it a super slicer? Well, no. Right there you see a little tug. That's okay. It didn't do any damage to the knife, and the knife performed like it was supposed to do. The knife performs exactly the way it was meant to perform. Not only could I take this out to dinner and have a good steak dinner, I know also that if I needed this knife, I can rely on this knife. Now, no, if you get in a truck wreck like a lot of people on the internet believe you're going to wreck in your truck and be stuck with a knife in your underwear, I pray for them daily. This probably isn't the knife you want. But here's the deal. Dead serious. If you need this knife, it'll perform. It'll do what it needs to do. And I'll be honest with you, it's a dope looking little knife. Now look right there in the shirt pocket. Honestly, if this wasn't a knife video, and I was going to edit this because I fumbled around with some paper, and then I thought, no, I wanted to get a good look at the way the knife carried. It carried very well, very light, and that's a t-shirt pocket. It didn't pull. It didn't do any of that. So overall, what do I think of the knife? I think the knife does exceptionally well, and I think it does be above what it was made to do. I think it's razor sharp. I think it's classy looking. I love the red and black. I love the G10. I love the D2. I love the upswept blade. It'll also, because I'm going to get asked, is it good for self-defense? Well, it'll stab the shit out of you if you need it to. Here's the thing you need to know. I'm Scab. You're not. Love this knife. I'm gone.